there stands to be a lot of stakes in that fight. Not just the undisputed being on the line for Fury versus Usyk, but the winner of Joshua versus Ngannou stands to be in the frame for the next bite at the cherry for the undisputed crown. Should the IBF stay in this position and not be vacated? Either way, 3 belts might end up being on the line there for the winner of that fight. In terms of that, though, Josh, how do you feel about the winner of Joshua versus Ngannou getting that bite at the cherry when others in the division, like a Zhang, like a Parker, who defeated Deontay Wilder in surprising fashion, might have strong claims to getting that opportunity?
Yeah, I think you have to look at the short run, and someone like a Joseph Parker, after beating Deontay Wilder, if he was to go on and beat Zhilei Zhang, he'd have a very, very strong claim. You have to look at the short run of fights that they've had over the last year or so, and what Joshua's done over the last year. You look at Helenius, you look at Volin, and you look at possibly a win against Ngannou. Is that really the pedigree that gets you to an undisputed title? Probably have to say no, but from a fan's point of view, it's something that you certainly shouldn't be complaining about Joshua against Fury as an undisputed fight. So there's a few ways of looking at that one. Would he deserve it on the run? Possibly not, but am I going to complain? No.
And boxing fans might complain even more so if the impossible, in brackets, maybe not so impossible, happens. That was what Dewey Cooper and co will be planning for Francis Ngannou to shock the world again, but this time get his hand raised against Anthony Joshua. Can't write out Francis Ngannou's chances just yet because of what's been able to achieve. Then Francis Ngannou, who's a 1-on-1 fighter, getting a crack at either Fury or Usyk. The world, or at least the boxing world, the sporting world, we're tuning in, but maybe not for someone who's quite as deserving as the others that are in the queue to hold on to that kind of opportunity. Let's get to your thoughts in the chat, though, and see what you guys think about this situation, as well as chopping up who you think will win the fight, starting off with Joshua versus Ngannou. So we've got some comments in the chat. First of all, we have William Machiri. I might butcher these names a little bit. Normally, Danny gets the names right. He butchers them, and I get to laugh. Josh gets the seat of laughing this time around. But William is saying AJ is all the best, so therefore he's going for the pick that Anthony Joshua will beat Francis Ngannou. We'll remain to see if that happens. We have here, I'm going to have to read this one carefully, Nadaf Wepa Mabango saying Ngannou takes the lead if Anthony is not setting his foot away from the ranks. Then we have here a bit of joke comment. We know Romani Mode likes to put a few joke comments in. He says, Prince Nassim will jump in the ring and KO Anthony Joshua. I think Nassim Hamid's days of getting in between the ropes are done and gone, unless he's helping his sons in their professional careers. Michael says, Ngannou will win because AJ can't take a smack in the face. Look at the first Ruiz fight. Then he ran all night in the rematch because he was scared to bang it out with him. Josh, let's discuss this one a little bit here because people put a big question mark about AJ's chin. Francis Ngannou questioned on Errol Hawani's podcast whether his chin was sturdy enough to take it. People say there's been a difference in Joshua since he took those big shots from Ruiz, since that surprising night happened, since Andrew Ruiz was able to rip up the script and knock down Joshua, discombobulate him. People say that now that he's been, Joe Gallagher said it on Seconds Out as well too. Now when he gets hit, he stays hit. He can't recover. And he's got to change his game plan. He's got to change the way he fights to make sure he doesn't get hit. He doesn't stay hit. Do you see that in Joshua? Do you think he's a different fighter because of that?
I do think he's a different fighter to 2 or 3 years ago. And it's interesting what you mentioned there about the chance that Ngannou would have against Joshua. I remember being on the show 2 weeks ago and we put out a poll of who do you think's going to win between Anthony Joshua and Francis Ngannou, and 35% of people actually said that Francis Ngannou was going to win that fight. Now that was hugely surprising for me. I do give Francis Ngannou a limited chance of winning that fight, but I did not expect to see 35% of people thinking that. But in terms of where he is in his career, yeah, I do think he's a bit of a different fighter to what he was a few years ago. But with the work he's doing now, and obviously we've seen he's gone through a bunch of trainers as of late, but he seems to be making some progress with Ben Davison. And yeah, I do hope that some of those bad times are behind him and we can see that best Anthony Joshua once again.
We have Romani Mode in the chat saying he's talking tactics And he's saying, I want Ngannou to win, but he needs to be up close to get the victory. And we've seen that big, long wingspan that Ngannou has, that one of the big assets to his physicality, not that he's just a bigger guy out of Fury and Joshua, which he will be in this fight, but he's also massive. The amount of space he's able to occupy because of how long his arms are is a real key factor in this fight, and Joshua has to find a way around that. And he might find himself in the end of a few stiff jabs in getting to Ngannou in the first place. Mr. Nice 420 says he didn't realize how close the fight was. It's very close indeed. As does another one, Lanky Streak says the same sort of thing too. Paul Owen is backing his man, the Gypsy King, says he will be the last man standing. We'll get to that in a moment. Gaboncho TV says he's backing his vote for anti-Joshua. Mr. Nice wants the best man to win, although he's a Fury fan. Reminding Mo says anti-Joshua does have a chin. I'm inclined to believe so too, but can he take the whack of Francis Ngannou? That's another question that has to be answered. There's a lot of talk about Francis Ngannou and him having the power of the punch over the two. That might be the truth from the single punch. What about the combinations? AJ is known for his devastating combinations. Can he get those off? And in those combinations, will he be more powerful than Francis? I don't know how to pronounce that one, but it ends in Scott. It says, who's better, Bruce or Michael Buffer? We'll leave the announcer chat for another time. Did you see how he got up from Klitschko? Rocket of a right hand. He did get up from that belt, but AJ's getting S for it, and he ain't going to get a strap for the better. I think I've mixed it up a little bit, but I appreciate the comment nonetheless. Apparently, Fury has a better chin, but been down more times than AJ. Good point here. And got dropped by a cruiserweight. AJ ain't never been dropped by a cruiserweight. That's a fair point there too. But then again, if you look at what Oleksandr Usyk had done in those two fights against anti-Joshua, that's a cruiserweight coming up to heavyweight, not quite fully established himself at the top level. He was in at the top level against anti-Joshua, and he was able to really hurt Joshua and could have, if he stepped on the gas a little bit more, get anti-Joshua out there. It looked like at some points, especially later in the first fight, that he was about to be out there. But didn't quite get it. Did Tyson land anything big on Francis? I know they're used to head kicks, but taking a power punch from a large heavyweight is trained to punch specifically. No, that's a good point as well too. A lot to talk, a lot of comments. I'm going to park the comments there.